Welcome everybody, my name is Nina and we have officially made it to week 2 of this series. As part of my bullet journaling, I had something like a little format, I would call it, called Thought of the Week. And first of all, I think it sounds hilarious because it sounds like I have one thought per week and I would write it down. But the actual background of that is that I'm really into bettering yourself in general, self-help, self-improvement, and just in general becoming a more optimistic, happy and open human being. I write down what inspired me the most, or something that I found interesting, or just a thought that was very thought-provoking for me, and I decided, why not share it with the world too, because who knows, perhaps it could be interesting to someone. And as it so happens, this week I had a big enlightenment. Something that I noticed is that sometimes when you are doing self-improvement, it's difficult to see the before and after pretty much, because it's a very slow process, more or less, and in general you're just living your life. At least for me, I felt, sure, I am happier now than I used to be, but I'm still the same person, and how much could have changed. Pretty much out of boredom, I was scrolling through Instagram, through my Instagram archives, and I went way back to the absolute beginning of what I was posting, and what I saw honestly kind of horrified me, but in a positive way, where I could appreciate how I am now. As a little bit of a background, a few months ago, one of my friends has described me as being very energetic and positive, and it has obviously stuck with me for first the reason that I'm very flattered to hear that about myself. It feels great. But also the second reason being that even then, even when I was thinking oh sure, I couldn't have changed that much, I understood that I'm not sure if people would have said that about me a couple of years ago, which is very weird to think about. And I will pull up a few examples of the stories that I used to post. And it's a little bit difficult to describe, but based on these stories, I can really see how my worldview basically changed, how I am perceiving things, because I was so weirdly cynical, judgy, mean, and I don't know, I don't feel like I was very pleasant to be around. And it's not like I was a monstrous being where I was constantly insulting everyone, but the little jabs here and there, it really, I don't know, shows me I wasn't a particularly fun person to be around, at least in my opinion now from this perspective. To summarize, in general, I reflected from these stories, I could really tell how I perceived everything around me and how I also perceived myself. Well, perhaps you're now asking the question, well, how did you do it? How do you go from being the way I used to be to the way I am now? And at least hopefully you're asking that question because I'm answering it. The answer to that is, on one hand, really simple, but on the other hand, you need to change the way you perceive life around you. And that can be a little bit tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, you wouldn't want to go back at all. I have condensed it to 3 things that I would boil it down to. It's obviously a lot more complex, but hopefully this will be the stepping stones that help you as well if you want to go on that journey, which I would highly recommend. The very first thing is that recently I have been reading the books by Rhonda Byrne. And maybe you are now oh my god. And I get it, I absolutely get it. It's not even I haven't known about these books beforehand. I think I watched the movie right when it came out. But let me give an example out of one of her other books, The Magic. This book talks about feeling grateful for the things that happen around you. A few years ago, if you would have told me that, then I would be sure, I can say thank you, but it doesn't really change anything. And still, I feel yeah, sure, if that's the way I take the lesson or belief, then sure, it doesn't really change anything. However, Rhonda Byrne in her books, she doesn't really talk about just saying the words. It isn't even really about actions. It's about a deep feeling of gratitude that you feel towards your surrounding. And for example, if something good happens to you, it should be natural that you also feel grateful for the fact that it happened. But even this is one thing that most people don't appreciate. They don't appreciate the good things that they have. But even if something bad happens to you, it's also good to feel grateful, because you can either learn something from it, you can set your boundaries from that point on, and yeah, in general, there's a lot you can learn from that. It's a little bit difficult to explain this in words. I hope that I'm doing a good job. In any case, you should absolutely read the books if that sounds like something that's interesting to you. But it's about the feeling that you have. When people around you notice that you have a grateful vibe or like aura or whatever around you that really changes things, and people gladly start to help you and be more positive towards you because it's kind of infectious in a way, like this positive energy, at least in my experience, because why wouldn't it be also? So in general, being very grateful for all the things around you and yeah, everything that you have, because there's a lot. Now the second thing that I wanted to mention is taking responsibility for your life is super important, and often people don't really do it. They blame others for the situation, they say, oh, this other person should have done something, but it is so important to realize that only you yourself are responsible for your own life. No one else is. Like, in a way, I feel like that's very freeing, and also you get a lot of confidence by that because you understand, oh my god, I can change. I can change the situation. And I do have to say, sure, sometimes life throws you in unexpected situations, and there's nothing you could have done any other way that would have prevented you from getting there. But still, even in that situation, it is super important that you take responsibility from for the actions that you do from that point onwards. Hope that makes sense. And also, again, I'm speaking from experience. Way back in school, I really hated it. Like, I, for the life of me, couldn't find one positive thing. I hated waking up to school, I hated going to school, I hated all of the like exams that I had to take, everything about it. And I was basically just waiting for it to be over. Like, I just sat there and complained about the fact that I had to go to school. And same thing with university later. Like, I went to university and I also, again, hated it and waited until it was done. And it was generally, that was an attitude I had to a lot of things. Instead of just looking at the positives, seeing, okay, what can I do to make this experience fun for me, and taking responsibility for the fact that I'm bored. Like, why am I bored? I could have found something that would have made it interesting, but I didn't. And here we are. So at least now I can speak from experience that it is a good idea to take responsibility, because that makes it possible for you to change your life to the way you want it to be. And now number 3. I also have a big love for psychology. It's super interesting for me to understand like how people act, or like why people act rather. This understanding has led me to the belief that, and let me read this, I like the way I wrote it down, people choose the best option possible in any given situation. And a little psychology 101 in case you're not super familiar with this topic. Generally, people experience some kind of trauma in their childhood. It can be something relatively small or something relatively big, but since children don't really have a point of reference, it doesn't really matter in any way. The emotions they have felt in this situation, or the coping mechanisms that they have figured out for themselves, they usually carry into their adult life. And understanding this really makes it understandable that people aren't just being mean for mean's sake. They just generally don't have a better way to cope with the situation. They don't know how else to act, because like that's the best way they could do it. I now, because I used to be judgy, but I now think that people rather deserve compassion rather than being judged, because they don't know what they're doing. Like, they're trying their best, and in many cases, at least what I'm noticing from my surroundings, people are generally trying to better themselves. So yeah, just understanding that people aren't just being out there mean for absolutely no reason, but they just are living their own life. Because when you're thinking about yourself, just usually you're not really trying to be mean, you're just either trying to hide some emotions that you couldn't really figure out, or you, I don't know, we're too confused to properly deal with it. Other people are just the same, so there you go. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully I could explain everything. If there's questions, if something isn't quite clear, please write it down in the comments and I'll do my best. But I thought it would be really interesting to share, because this is such a big brain amazing idea that I have with filming myself each week, because like with the stories, like if I didn't have those, I couldn't have seen this before and after effect, and yeah, it's really cool. Alrighty, so on Monday I was working in home office, no surprises there. In general, I was also editing the first video, and it took me a little bit longer than I expected. I was working on it the whole week, because still I'm a little bit like, oh my god, watching myself on video, like I have a little bit of a barrier until I get to it. It took me a little while, but I think with time I'll get quicker with editing. Also on Monday I was studying for the PMP exam, which is something I'm proud of. But it was also the only time that week that I was studying for the PMP. But hey, at least I did something. And apart from that, I was doing also something else on Monday, so very busy day. because I was also planning a trip to London that I will be doing next week with my mom, and I'm really excited for it. There's like so many museums that we absolutely have to look at because there's just so many, and I'm really looking forward to it. Then on Tuesday I was working again, yay! I filmed myself making healthy food. It was just something that I wanted to mention as part of the good habits that I'm trying to establish. I'm trying to eat less like processed fast food and cook more for myself, and I don't know, I thought to share this recipe, I suppose. It's super quick and healthy, mostly healthy, so yeah, perfect for lunch when working. In the evening, it was even more healthy because I kept working out, which is really great. On Wednesday, I went out to get bubble tea. I do have to say the staff at the bubble tea place, it's called Shibuya, it's in Zurich, Wiedikon, and I really recommend it. It was very nice, the staff were great, and yeah, great experience overall. I do have to say my favorite bubble tea place, so in case you're interested in that, is still Pao Pao in Zurich Wiedikon, which is 12 out of 10, I would say. Friday, I had more online meetings for the secret thing that I mentioned in my first video, and it will be so cool. Apart from that, there was also a rainbow on Friday. Thought I would mention that, I don't know, it looked pretty. And then in the evening, my friends and I were working out because we were responsible and didn't cancel it because we all weren't feeling quite right on Thursday, and instead of canceling it, we just moved it a day up and we still went, and with that, we actually went for an entire month 2 times per week, and we didn't slack off even 1 time. And then Saturday, the probably most fun day of the week, because I went bowling with friends and it was a great experience. Maybe I also really liked it because I won. I don't know how, to be honest, but it was a fun time, and I do feel like I have to insert this clip of Louis. It was perfect comedic timing.
Woo! Yes, second try, go!
And yeah, afterwards the friend group and I went to Miss Miu in Wiedikon as well, and also great place, looked beautiful, really amazing. The staff was also really friendly, so overall another great experience. Something I also want to mention, my friend Simran is the one who more or less founded this friend group. Like, she's really great at finding cool people and connecting them. And I'm more of the person who can organize stuff better because I have no idea how to find people like that. At least not that many. Like, I'm fine with having a couple of friends and then I'm good. But she's good at finding a lot of cool people and put them in one group. And so she organized the people, I organized the location, and made everything happen. And so it's a great synergy, and we had a great evening. So then Sunday, last day, nothing super exciting happened. It was just a relaxing day where I finished editing the first video, and yeah, that's it. And with that, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Again, if there's any questions, then please write them down below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you like this video, please click the like button down below. If you want to get notified for my future videos, then please also click the subscribe button. And yeah, I hope that you have a great week and hopefully see you soon. Bye!